So our objectives for today, we're going to be talking about professional learning, all these great things about professional learning, and how to really drive our analysis to inform our goals for professional learning. We're also going to talk about reviewing our goal reports. Our objective is to talk about goal reports and professional learning opportunities, as well as where to collect these various points of data from. And our agenda, we're going to talk about telling your story. We've really structured this webinar to be really a reflection time for y'all to really think about what the story of your district is, and then how to once we have that full grasp, that full reflection of where are we, then answer the question, and now where are we going, and how can we optimize that path using our tools in Strive. So I'm going to hand it over to Paige to kick us off.
All right, thank you very much. And we're going to start by talking about your district's professional development story. As Allison said, how do I build that story? How do I know what's going on in my district? So we're going to start with some of those data points. None of these are in any particular order. You can you can start anywhere that you want. We're just going to talk about some things to consider. So one of those elements would be what's happening with your kiddos. So you can go into Aware and you can look at any of your data and you can find focus TEKS. What should I be focused on for my students? And to lead up to that, what should I focus on with my teachers to help them help those students? So I can pull a report. You can pull multitude of reports. This is actually a grade 8 math test. It's from 2022 because we have old data in our demo site, but you probably have more up-to-date data that you could look at. What are your testing results from this past spring? Where are your kids? I can see the standards across the top, and I can look at where are my red zones. We have some columns that are almost entirely red, and that's something I'm going to want to pay attention to. I'm going to want to dig down into those standards. What are the concepts that are being covered here, and how can I help my teachers be more prepared for those concepts? When you're looking at the data, I want to look up and down. So I'm looking at a particular column and what its colors are, but I also want to look at the rows. Like if you look about halfway down, you'll see that there's a row it's split equally between 50% and 100%. What that tells me is this is a class that had 2 students in it, because there are no other percentages in there. Either one kid got it wrong or they both got it right. There wasn't an example here in this section where they both got it wrong, but this may not be my best example. So I may want to ignore, that there are a couple of hundreds here because they're both from one of those classes that has very few students, and look more at the classes that have more data. If I have a more, not such a rounded percentage, then I know I had a larger group of students, and I can look at that information and decide, what do I need to focus on? If I'm looking at 8th grade math teachers, do I need to offer some professional development that's going to focus on how to teach, strategies to teach, whatever, the concepts that the kids need in order to improve in these areas? So it's kind of like, I always quote Stephen Covey. He's the guy that used to say, begin with the end in mind. And so the end is student success. So we want to start there. What are our students struggling with? How do we back that up to how can we help our teachers help our students in those areas? And that's one of the elements we can use as part of our plan. So this is part of our professional development story because it's where we want our professional development to lead. Another place to look for information about your story is your appraisal results. Find your lowest performing dimensions, and then what can we do to help teachers do better in that area? So I can pull data. This is all campus data. So each of these are averages from a campus. If I'm a campus administrator, I can look at it just the teachers on my campus and see which teachers have the lowest areas. I could also sort by subject area instead of by school. So I could say, is it math teachers? Is it science teachers? Is it social studies teachers? Do I need to do some targeted professional development for a specific subject area? I can pull all of those things by choosing different columns and row combinations up here. What do I want to look at? So I can look at it by school or by appraiser or appraisee or subject area or grade level. And all of those things give me different types of information. So I want to go into that detailed analysis and I want to use it in every way possible. I want to go in and find all the filters and find all of the different changes that I can make so that I can see different types of information and get that full story. Looking at this one view, I can see one fact, and that is that we have some lower scores in data and assessment than we do in some of the other dimensions that I'm looking at here. But I'm only looking at one and part of two. I'm not even seeing domains 3 and 4. So there may be some other information over there. And also, it's only broken down by campus. So I might want to dig around. You can see how the different displays by campus, by subject, by grade level, by appraiser would give you additional information that's helping to build that story as well. So we're looking at how our students are performing. We're also looking at how our teachers are performing and how can we help them to do better, both in their own evaluations and also in how their students perform.
Hey, Paige.
Yes.
We have two questions. So I believe this one is going to come from this slide here.
Okay.
But what is a good score for one of these dimensions?
So that's tricky. According to
Right.
TEKS, proficient is the rock star status that all teachers should be aiming for, and it's looking at a 5-point scale here with 5 being distinguished. So proficient would be 3. So this is an average of proficient. This is an average of just below proficient. Um, we have some in here that are 3-point somethings. I'm trying to find it. This is proficient and a half almost. So if you look at it as that 5-point scale, what we're telling teachers is rock star status would be a 3. Anything below a 3 would be in developing or needs improvement, or would have some developing and needs improvement mixed in. So if I have something below a 3, like I have some 2s down here, 2.98, I could come over here and click on the campus, and that would show me all of the teachers on that campus and what their individual scores are. And then I could see, is this just like a handful of teachers who are maybe brand new teachers and that's bringing the average down? Or is that kind of the across the board number for that particular dimension at that campus? Or I could look at the data differently to find out, oh, it's the science teachers. The science teachers have lower scores in this area, and that's what's bringing the average down. So again, 3 is that proficient. What C-test says is rock star. It's that middle of the road because this is all pulling the 5-point scale, 5 being distinguished, 1 being improvement needed. I hope that
Um,
helped.
that's a great answer. And thank you so much for delineating how the scores are produced. The second question we got, and this one came on the first slide, but how do we get to these reports? So I'm guessing we are seeing the focus teaks, and then also the other reports that we find in Strava.
Yes, and there are some quick views that are built into this. This is actually from Aware. This is Aware data. So there are some quick views that are built into Aware, and then you can also go in and build your own views to select whatever assessment you want and include the groups that you want. But there are some quick views where you can go in and just pull that star data, or if you've imported map data, you could pull a view of map data to determine what test you want, and then it will display by standards. There are some articles, and I'll see if I can find one and attach it to the slide before we send the slideshow out to you about building those views in Aware. But we've got lots in our online help guide about how you can create those. And any data that you have in Aware, whether it's teacher tests, star tests, if you import map data or testing data from any other platform that you use, if you have it, if you've imported it into Aware, then you can pull that data in a view like that and see what your lower performing standards are.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right.
another place to look is our legacy analysis. And now when you go to an analysis and reports over on left-hand side in your I'm going to show this for just a second. If I go into Strive and I go to analysis and reports, I see document summary at the top. I see detailed analysis, which is what I was just showing you, and how you can switch back and forth and change all of the filters and configure it in a number of ways. We also have student growth and teacher performance correlation, which will give you a scatter plot. We have our reports, and then down at the bottom, there's a link that says goals and professional learning analysis, which is from our legacy analysis tool. And so when you click on that, you can say, show me professional development by dimension, or I'm sorry, professional goals by dimension. And it will tell me how many of my teachers wrote a goal that was related to a specific dimension. I can also go in and say, I want to see professional development as well. So I could have, 1.1, I could have a row for professional goals and then another row for professional development. And that would show me from last year, we had, 47% of our teachers wrote a goal tied to standards and alignment. We only offered or only had teachers attend 21% of professional development in that area. So maybe I need to up the professional development or advertise my professional development a little bit more to get people attending those sessions that are related to their goals. Or maybe I'm finding out that they're writing goals on things that we have not offered professional development for in the past, and that's something that I need to develop, and that becomes part of my story. So I can go into that legacy analysis tool to see how my professional development story compares to the goal story that teachers are writing. What are they writing their goals about? What are they concerned about? Most of the time, these goals come from their evaluation data. So it's based on their evaluation experience. What is my goal going to be for next year? And so these things all kind of tie together. But you can go in and select, what do I, maybe I don't want to really focus on domain one. I want to focus just on domains 2 and 3. I can do that. I can limit it down to the dimensions that I want to analyze and then select whether I'm looking at goals or professional learning or both. And I can get more information that I add to my story of what are the teachers' needs and what have I been offering, or we as a district been offering, what do I want to plan or change about that going forward. And then in document summary, depending on what documents you're using, you can pull in the areas of reinforcement and refinement really easily to see another level, another picture of your district. We have a document in the community that is the post-observation document that includes this area of reinforcement and refinement, and that's what I pulled into document summary to get these results. So it looked at all of those post-observation conference documents, and it pulled in all of the areas of reinforcement and refinement that are being set for teachers. And then I can float over. So this was my biggest number, and I can see how many of my teachers were designated as working on this for their area of reinforcement. I can float over any of these if I was live in the software, and it would show me the percentage. And I can figure out what are the trends that are happening. If I'm a district level person, I can see this for the whole district. If I'm a campus level administrator, I can see my campus. If I'm district level, I could see everybody, but I could filter it down. Let me just see all the high schools, or let me just see all the middle schools, or let me see a feeder pattern, 3 elementaries, a middle, and a high. I can select whatever I want in order to display this data to get those targeted results. And then I can float over, like I said, that's how I got this one to show up. I float my mouse over and it will show me the actual numbers. But this is going to tell me what appraisers and teachers in their post-observation conference determined was those areas to work on for refinement and for reinforcement. So if this is what they're working on, what am I going to offer as part of the professional development to help them as they do that work? And then finally, if you have any custom walkthrough data that you need, if you've got some specific questions or specific things that you have appraisers looking for, sometimes these are walkthroughs that are done by instructional coaches and not necessarily part of the TEKS evaluation process. But if you have those instructional walkthroughs and you want to be able to see them and find out what is that information telling me, you can look at that in document summary as well. Anything that's a checklist question or checkbox question will show up like this with the question and the bar graph. And then when I float over the bar graph, it'll show me the total number. And again, you can see the total number, that 21% in this case represents 8,131 teachers or marked as classroom talk out of 38,000. So I can see like the total numbers and the percentages. And this is just going to give me some additional data to have. If you've got those other types of walkthroughs, you can look at that information as well and see, are there things here that I need to focus on? Like think, turn, talk is my smallest number. Do we need to do a little more professional development to show them ways that they can use that? Maybe it's because it's not being used at high school as much. Do we want to show them some ways to do that? So you can look at that information and get more to add to your story. And then finally, I want to look at what we've done in the past. Not that we're necessarily going to repeat everything, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What did we do that was good? What did we do that addressed the needs that I'm still seeing? And then what might we want to add? And there are lots of ways you can look at that data. One way is that you can search that data by dimension. So in this particular case, I went in and said I wanted to find the ones that had dimension 3.2. Um, if I had applied that, I would only be seeing 3.2 up here. I can have multiple dimensions in my search, or I can just let it show me all of them. Just put the dimensions in there and let it show all. In this case, I have it showing. I don't know what the numbers are. 41 is probably 1.4, and 45 is probably 2.4, just because it's a higher number. So I've got 3 dimensions that I said I wanted to look at, and that's what I'm seeing over here. I could have not limited it and just let it show me all of them, or I could limit it to a single one, but that lets you target. I've identified some areas of reinforcement and refinement that have high percentages. I've identified some areas of goals that have high percentages. What professional development have I offered in the past that meets those same areas? Can we re-offer? Can we offer those same courses again? Or if I have some gaps, do I need to create some things? So looking at what we've done, but looking at it in a targeted way is going to help you get some more detail to add to your plan for what's going to happen next. And then you're going to build the courses based on those needs, and you're going to make sure that you can continue to get the data. So when you build the courses, I've built a course called Instructional Strategies based on what I saw from all that data. I want to make sure that it's tied to what I want it to be tied to. So when I go in and build it, you're going to see a wizard at the very beginning that will ask you to do your dimensions. And then if you decide later on, I'm not sure I did that, or I'm not sure I put everything in there, you can always go back under the setup tab and find course dimensions and revisit that list and make changes to it. So you really get more than one bite at the apple. You do them when you build the course, but you can edit them later. In this case, because it's instructional strategies, it's tied to activities, differentiation, and then everything should be tied to professional development, because we want everything to show up in the data. So put it all, anything you build, 4.3 is a given. If it's for teachers, it's a different number for principals, but 4.3 is a given for all professional development. And then what are the other dimensions that are specifically related to this course? That's going to help your teachers, and it's also going to help you get data later on. You can use this one thing that is a rare example in our system. You can use multiple frameworks. So I'm here using the TEKS framework, but some districts are using a professional development framework also. And so they can check off both the TEKS dimensions and the professional development dimensions for their courses as they build them. Any questions that I need to visit?
All's quiet on the
Okay,
Zoom front for
very
now.
good. In that case, I'm going to turn
Oh,
it over to you.
so we do get one question. Is
Okay.
this a tool for teachers as well as administrators?
So
Um,
the teachers
I,
don't see this back end part, but Allison's going to show you in a minute what they do see and how they can use this information.
Great question. All right, so next question to reflect on. What Strive features can I use to boost my district's professional learning performance? So Paige guided us through, how do we tell our story? How do we look and see where we've been, what we've been doing, what measures we've made? we've gotten a lot of really rich data that have told the story of what we're doing currently with our district concerning professional learning, as well as addressing those areas where we need to grow or maybe continue doing down the same path if we are seeing exactly the results we'd like to see in a certain area. So I'm going to walk you through some features in Strive that are going to really elevate how we take the story that we just established and move it forward towards our goals. So
Sorry.
the first feature we're going to chat about is our district goals. Now, we love to throw the word goals around in education, am I right? So we got student growth goals, we've got professional learning goals, we've got professional goals, we've got all kinds of goals. And if you have ever been in a training with me, goals are important. Why? Because just like I-35, we never stop working on ourselves. So here we can talk about our professional learning goals. So within Strive, on the back end of Strive, you are going to see that you can add your own course goals. Now, this is a feature that you unlock during your setup you have whenever you set up your Strive system. And if you're like, wait, I didn't know that was a thing, totally, you can go back in and take a look at that and enable that feature so that you can use it. Everyone has it. It's just, is it enabled or not? And you can set up professional development goals. Now, these are goals that are surrounding professional learning, professional development, whichever moniker you use for your district. But these are goals that you can have established, and then each course that you create ties back to these goals. So you can really make the goals that you have for professional learning and ensure that each course offering, each measure you make towards professional learning is in alignment with your goals so that you can ensure that you reach your goals. So these go and the beautiful piece of this is that at the end of it, you can pull reports to show courses offered relating to a particular goal, including participants. So this is a really powerful way to, if you feel like you've got sessions that are just coming out from all over the place, if you have a really wide gamut of sessions and you're like, how can we really align? Well, please use this feature. It's a really wonderful feature that helps with alignment. It helps with communication. And it really drives us towards achieving what we'd like to achieve concerning professional learning.
Can I share an example?
Yes, please.
In my previous district, our school board met with each department at the end of the year and they wanted to ask, what has your department done to help further the district's strategic goals? And because we tied all of our professional development to those strategic goals in this section, we could run a report that said how many sessions we'd offered, how many teachers had attended, and even who those teachers were for each of the district's goals. So we could show that we were helping to further the district's strategic goals with the training that we were offering. It's great for planning, but it's also great for showing here's what we're doing as part of the district's plan.
I love that. I love that example, especially with the evidence piece.
Yeah. Sorry, I have the fat fingers today. I keep double clicking.
All good. Um, so this is just like another little dive into what the adding district goals looks like when you're working in the management tools and professional development in Strive. And so you can see that you break down each of your goals, you set those goals, um, and then you save them and publish them. And we've seen different districts do different things. Some of them pull goals that are already established from an organization, a reputable organization that they would like to, that they identify with the goals. They may put those goals in the system, or some districts create their own goals. It really is dependent on, do you want to have some sort of like grassroots goals, or do you want to have some like established goals from an organization that you're trying to emulate in some certain practices. So it really is customizable. The next feature I'd like to talk to y'all about is submit a course idea. This is one of my favorite elements in Strive, especially when it comes to professional learning. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but our teachers know some amazing things and can do some amazing things. Can I get an amen? So they have these really wonderful ideas. And as we are looking at, professional learning and what kind of talent we want to bring in to share, we really should be looking at the talent that's happening in our classrooms every day, especially whenever we have teachers that are really like movers and shakers, exercising really vanguard ideas with really reaching our students. And so the submit a course idea enables all users to be able to submit a course. This element is from another feature in Strive management tools that you have to enable. But once it's enabled, every single user in Strive is able to go into their professional learning and submit a course idea. If the course idea is something that is accepted by someone that approves these ideas, you can immediately take it and move it straight over into a course. So we've heard a lot of like different ways people crowdsource things. This is a one-stop shop right here. They put the idea in, and if it's something that you want to use, you can immediately, the administrator could push it over into a course and make it and add it to professional learning with the greatest of ease. This really allows for crowdsourcing and agency. So many times our teachers would have such great knowledge to share. How are we elevating those voices? And so submit a course idea is a really great way that is conducive to all different sizes of districts to really, number one, empower our teacher leaders. They have such great things to share. If they go out and do different professional development, how do we want to celebrate what they've learned and bring it back and share it? Have them submit a course idea. If they read a book together, maybe you want to offer that for your back to school professional development. So have them put what they learned in their submit a course idea. These are all really great ways to really empower the knowledge within our communities, and as well as drive the learning towards things that our teachers want to know more about. Additionally, your district goals tie into this. So if you are like, well, I really want to enable this, but I want to make sure we're meeting our goals. In the submit a course idea, you do talk about which goals you can meet. And so again, it's really just getting that conversation starting with like, now that we've seen all the data and we see where we want to go, how can we use that data to bring up our teacher leaders to share their thoughts, as well as share more knowledge within our community of mentoring. Another way to really get amazing data from your system using Strive is setting up this generic professional learning account. And we put the steps here for you, but essentially, if you have surveys enabled at the end of each course in Strive, you get data from that course and that instructor. If you create a generic account for professional learning and added that as an instructor to each professional learning offering that you create, you will get aggregated data under that um under that professional learning account. So if you right now, if you don't have a generic account, it will break down by each instructor. But with a professional learning generic account, you can see all your sessions offered with with this generic account. So it really helps understand how the ideas were perceived, any feedback you wanted to grab from the audience. And again, you can craft all of your surveys to answer these questions. So you have a lot of agency in your own right, to get the data you need, and really seek feedback from your teachers and educators experiencing your professional learning. So this is a really simple way to get really rich data. And another thing that I did in a previous life is we had a generic professional learning account broken down by department. And so as I was in instructional technology, we had instructional technology professional learning department. And so we would add that instructor to each one of our professional learning courses so that we would be able to see the performance and the attitudes, feelings, and thoughts that were generated from our instructional technology professional learning offerings. The same thing was done with CNI, with transportation, et cetera. So just kind of really gets you thinking about what kind of data do you want to pull from the people that are experiencing your professional learning, and how is that going to empower you to move forward towards your goals? Once you have this information from your teachers regarding uh, what they want to know more about, this is when you can start crafting conferences. And so I'm excited for, if you haven't experienced our Strive conferences, oh my goodness, please look at these articles and definitely reach out to us so that we can really help you understand this beautiful feature that you have in your Strive toolbox already. So conferences can be a single or multi-day event. You can set them up. You can add tags to them. You can have learning tracks. You can tag dimensions, things of that nature. And then obviously when you sign up, you can add them to a schedule. It's all there in the middle in your Strive, available to all users. So you can really have an efficiently run conference learning event for your entire district using conferences and Strive. And the last element we can talk about is eCourses. So our eCourses are digital asynchronous formats. And so these are courses that you build in your system and they're all asynchronous. You start them and people go in and take them on their time and they can receive credit. And so ideas for this, you can do, everybody loves it. You know it's coming. Your bloodborne pathogens training. It's coming up in August. I know everybody gets really hyped for some bloodborne pathogen training. That's an idea of adding this into our e-courses. New teacher orientation training. How do you want to welcome and ensure that all of your new staff are on the same page with procedures as well as cultural elements of the district, where to park, what are what do we wear on game days, all those things that, we don't necessarily have a wealth of time to sit in a room together in a meeting. So why not put them into an e-course so everything can be self-paced moving forward and people can actually go back and reference that. So especially with your new hire courses, you can have those sitting in their Eduphoria account so they can go back and reference them whenever they need them. uh, Also, instructional strategies. Let's say that you have some folks that would like to share some instructional strategies, maybe empowering them to create e-courses with these different instructional strategies that would meet the needs of special populations, shared interests, things of that nature. That is something that is a really great way to use our e-courses, again, because you can open them and have people go in and use them throughout the year, and then you can close them. So e-courses can stay open for a certain amount of time. And then once they are completed, they will live in that person's in their portfolio as well. So e-courses is a really great way to drive that learning, but also do it in an asynchronous way so that we can honor everyone's time and continue to be flexible. All right. So our last question to reflect on is, now that I know the story, what are my next steps to reach my professional learning goals? We talked about how do we write our story? We write it by pulling data, beautiful data that shows us a really good idea of where we've been and where we're going. We've talked about ways that Strive will help us use its different elements to take that story and empower us to reach our goals. So what are we going to do next? Now that we know what we know, what are we going to do? Let's talk about it. So the first one is we can create sessions that meet teachers' needs. So now that we have our data, we can start building courses, both in person or e-courses, and we can tag dimensions and domains so that if a teacher is looking for a certain area of reinforcement or refinement, or maybe they didn't score so well in a certain dimension this previous year, you can actually have them look in the course catalog for a certain dimension. I know, right? It's like, woo. Also, you can also do categories as well. So maybe you have something that has a proprietary name, like a district initiative, and you wanted to have a certain category for it. You could also add categories and make that a way so that you can search for those findings in the course catalog. And just a quick update, now we have t-test version 2 and t-test alt domain 1. The dimensions are about the same. So especially for V2, it's the same thing. So, but you will see that that is an update made in professional learning as well. You can also do searches by keyword, which is a very important element, especially when you're looking for certain keywords like STEM or scaffolding or differentiated reading or reader's theater, all those different things. Keywords come in real handy whenever you're trying to find this course catalog. And the last thing we want to do is create any type of friction for or hassle for our sweet teachers to have to go like really look really hard to find something. So all these ways make searching and finding what we need for professional learning super optimal. And then you can also add your, whenever we're talking about goals, but this time professional goals, you can talk about how teachers can take their evidence from the work that they did in professional learning or certain types of workshop portfolios. They can pull that evidence into their goal work so that it's supported during their t-test observation or t-test evaluations. So as we are moving into thinking about appraisals, and you're like, what is, how do we show evidence, and how do we really empower our teachers to show what they've learned and have that support the goals that they've created? This element here in Strive on the appraisal side helps empowers our teachers to take the evidence from their professional learning as well as the professional learning that they attended and add it and say, okay, so I did this professional learning and here's how it supports this work that I'm doing in my goal. Page, and I believe, yep, summative panels. If you can talk to us about that summative panel. And I believe Paige, are you are you muted,
Yes,
Paige?
I was muted.
Oh,
Sorry. I was,
okay.
and I had a wonderful opening there too, so y'all missed it.
Of course, that's how it always goes, right?
Um, sorry about that. The summative panel is one of my favorite features. I think it's one of the most powerful features in Strive because it puts the entire body of evidence in one place when doing that summative evaluation. So whenever an administrator opens up that summative document, they'll see this panel on the right-hand side that will have all the domains and dimensions listed. In this example, I've clicked on one and opened up domain or dimension 1.4, and I can see any evidence that's there. I can see the observation results. If I scrolled up, I'd be able to see walkthrough results. I might also have a goal attached to this dimension, but I also have professional development. So any professional development that this teacher attended that was tagged to this dimension, and we've talked about targeting your dimensions and then tagging your courses to those dimensions, and then it's going to show up under that dimension for that teacher so that when I'm making the final decision about how do I rate them, I can see not only their appraisal results, their observation and walkthrough results, but also the work that they've done on their goals and their professional development. So anything that you tag, it's going to show up in that dimension. If I go to 4.3, and I mentioned earlier, I always say tag 4.3 no matter what. If I go to 4.3, I'm going to see the entire professional development history for that teacher for that school year. So tagging it to that particular dimension gives me everything in one place. And then those sessions are split up and assigned to the dimensions that they were tagged to when the courses were created. So it gives the appraiser not only what did I see in the classroom, but what did this teacher do beyond that time that I saw in the classroom? What did they do to work in this area? So it's easy for the appraisers to see once everything's tagged and set up the way we've talked about. All I have to do is click on the dimension in the summative panel to see that full history. Courses do have to be tagged. That's the precursor. But when you have your plan and you build your process, then all of this data comes together in the end. Any summative panel questions?
Not seeing any summative panel questions.
Okay, well, my next slide, Allison teased at the beginning that we had
I'm
something
so excited for
prepared.
y'all.
So what's next is auto check-in. Our developers are working right now. I'm imagining that I'm hearing cheers and oohs and ahs from the crowd. This is something that we've had requests for a long time. Developers have it created, and we think it's coming out very, very soon. And what it's going to mean is that you'll get a QR code and a URL for every course. You can enable or disable this per course or conference session. So if there are some courses where you don't want them to be able to sign in this way, you can disable it. But this will work in both courses and conferences where you can have a QR code that your users can use to sign in. They won't have access to that QR code except when they come to your course. So that's one way that you can do some secure sign in without having to go back in and go through all of those handwritten pages. I think this is going to help with time management for your instructors. I think it's going to be an easy way for you to keep track of who's where and when. And I'm really excited about it coming out and getting into your hands. So that is the newest thing that will be coming out in professional learning, and it will be coming very soon.
I'm very excited about this. And also, I hope y'all are peeping our new Eddie. He's showed up a few times in our presentation today. So he's pretty
Yes,
cute. And now
Eddie,
he's on our new feature.
he does have a new look. He's not the teal colored cat that people thought was a fox. He now looks more cattish. But he's got new colors and he's a little more modern than he was. So definitely have some updates showing up there. Okay, are there any final questions that we need to look at? I don't see anything in the Q&A. Is there anything in the chat we need to deal with?
I love that somebody just called it edupuria.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. That's like a Jason dad joke right there.
I was gonna say we will make sure we share that comment out with the rest of our team.
Absolutely.
I know, and not a lot of people know he's a cat. Eddie is a cat. So
Yeah.
he is a kitty cat. And he's not a fox.
I think he looks more like a cat in this iteration than he did previously. He had
I agree.
kind of a foxy tail in the earlier version. So
Yes, for sure.
last thing I wanted to mention is making sure that y'all are aware. What if your teachers had access to asynchronous learning that targets topics in Aware and Strive? Well, they do. So you can go to our teacher learning course. You can get to it from the link that will be here, but you can also go in to our online help guide. I'm going to click on the online help guide here. And if I go into training and webinars and I come over here where it says oh no, it's up here, free resources for teachers. If I click on free resources for teachers, it's going to take me in where they can start learning today. It's an online course that they can take. There are modules in there for a multitude of topics on Aware and Strive. The modules have short videos for them to watch and some reflection questions, but it's going to guide them through things that they need to know. And it's free and you have access to it already. So you can share that information with your teachers and help them with some of those topics. If you are having teachers come back and you want them to know where to find professional learning, there's a video in there. You can direct them to that video and they can watch it so that they know how to go in and search for their professional learning. So all of that's available to you now. We just want to get the word out and make sure that y'all are taking advantage of it. We also have another webinar scheduled July 24th that we wanted you to be aware of. It's Mastering the Art of Student Mastery. So this is going to be an aware-centric webinar dealing with one of our tools called Student Mastery. And again, that's on July 24th. If you've got your phones out, you can scan the QR code right now, or you can always go to our training and webinar section in our online help guide, and it will be there. And then this code will be in the slides that you get tomorrow. The follow-up email usually comes out about 24 hours after the session, and it will have all of the slides in there, including this one with the QR code on it. All right. We thank you for sharing your time with us today. We will look in the questions and see if there's anything else we need to follow up on. And I did take some notes about some links. We're going to try to add them either to the slides before you get them, or we'll add them to the email so that you'll have those about adding surveys and quick views in Aware. So we'll send some links so that you can find that information.
One more, I do want to answer one quick question. For the video somebody asked about a video presentation for new teachers. Actually, the teacher learning sites are a really great way if you have folks that are coming into your district that are not familiar with Eduphoria or and need to get to know the different tools, those teacher learning sites are awesome to be able to send out and do refreshers with your entire district staff that uses Eduphoria for appraisal or professional learning, and be able to get the information they need about the system and how it's used. They also offer them for Aware. So you can get both of the, the big tools. You can send them to those teaching learning sites, and they can use those as they come into the district. And as far as PD certificates, we do not give out PD certificates for our webinars. However, you can forward the information that you received, like the slides and the recording, as your verification for attendance, if that's something that your district needs. But that's really more of a district level decision. We don't really send out certificates for the webinars. So yes, I think that was the last of the questions.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, y'all. Stay cool.